Top Hits USA from RPM. Our name says it all. Get the latest hits while they're the hottest. With Top Hits USA, you'll have the track for sure. Visit tophitsusa.com or call 800-521-2537 and get a free demo.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have found the one and only Ben Stowe. Ben Stowe was missing in a snowstorm in Minnesota, but we found him, and we have him here for you tonight. Good evening, Ben.
I wasn't missing. I knew where I was. Well, actually, I didn't really know where I was at times.
You just told me you didn't know. You're like, is it the road? Is it the ditch?
Was, you know, like I said, times I didn't even know if I was on the road or not. It actually turns out one time I wasn't on the road. So
this is supposed to be the freeway, but is that McDonald's that the drive-through I just went through?
but I have a good excuse for being late, other than the fact that I've been on the road since, for the last 10 hours, a little more than 10 hours. But I just had dinner with a friend who has a fun bit of trivia for all you like ancient rockers, was the very first front of house engineer for Van Halen. So,
wow.
like before they were even important, you know?
So he was originally from California then?
Yep, he is. So anyway, just a fun little nugget of trivia. We swapped old stories, his from the dawn of time and mine from 10 hours ago. Remember that time I left Bemidji and drove 10 hours and didn't know I was on the highway or not? Yeah.
Yes. Ben did come from Hoth. I think it was about that cold a couple of nights ago. Ugh.
Covered a couple states and ended up back in Minnesota all in one shot here.
So. It's been a time. So Ben, let's talk a little bit about. We're going to talk about some sound things and just kind of bounce around. We're going to answer some questions if you guys have some questions and such, and just kind of make a light show of answering and bouncing back and forth. So.
I have literally just walked in my hotel room. John was teasing me because I'm opening the laptop lid with my left hand, taking off my jacket with the right hand. So this is about as unscripted as you could possibly get. So bring it on.
This is the time to ask those really in-depth questions because he will answer them. He will answer them correctly, and you'll be like, okay, where's his script?
I'm just thrilled to not be looking out the windshield of that car right now. You know.
Oh, that would be.
You get some blowing snow, some icy roads, oncoming headlights. I just couldn't be happier right now to be spending time with all y'all. So.
Yeah, exactly, and arriving safely because it's for those of you who are as that trip. I think Ben, that 10 hours on the road should have taken you about 4.5.
No, because I went to Wisconsin and then cut back through and I mean. Maybe it took 2 hours longer than it had to, but it wasn't that the speeds were reduced as much. I mean, they were, which caused a kind of a cascading delay. But I think the worst part is just that it felt like 20 hours, at times I was able to go, 50, 60, even 70 on the interstate at times, but it was those times. It was like, remember the movie Days of Thunder? Where he just gets to go through blind and you just hope you come out the other side alive. There's a lot of those moments where you're like, oh no, okay, and okay, I can see again. Good, I'm still on the road. Okay,
Yeah, if you're living in a southern climate, you have no idea what we're talking about, but that's called passing a semi in a snowstorm.
Or I was alongside a train for the longest time, and I like trains a lot.
Yeah.
I drive trains in my spare time, steam trains, but. He's kicking up all kinds of snow. The entire length of the train is kicking up snow, and it's just coming. It was complete whiteout for the longest time.
Oh goodness!
Yeah,
I can say I've never done that one.
So let's talk some gear because I don't want to talk about snow anymore. Okay?
Yeah, we're gonna move away from that. First off, let's talk about. You mentioned we want to talking about sound, and we've talked about this in past shows. But your son did a science experiment about. Well, just kind of tell us a little bit about what he was doing.
Well, he did. Yeah. I think it's like any, maybe not like any sixth grader, but like my sixth grader. I think he thought, hey, if I do a science fair project on sound, Dad will just do it for me.
And Ben, hold on. Howie, that topic is going to be covered out of this. That's why this ties in so well. Okay, sixth grader doing it on sound.
All right, we got a topic. Awesome. Well, thank you, Howie. Appreciate that. So I said, okay, well, I'll help you. Now, unbeknownst to my son, but beknownst to all of you because you're watching the show, I love to teach. So he probably thought he was going to get an easy day by picking a sound topic, and instead he probably got the hardest one because I'm like, all right, game on. He's learned a ton of stuff, but he's having some fun with it. So his science fair project, and here's a fun nugget. Everybody can post their answers just for fun. No shame here. But does the speed of sound change with frequency? So I'll let people just kind of post their answers.
Yep.
I have some pictures. We'll see how well this goes.
And this is where it ties in, Ben, because we were talking in the first show with Brian about line arrays, such as the smaller line arrays that are becoming more popular for DJs. We've talked about those on past shows, and creating a hot spot in the middle of the dance floor or a dead spot in the middle of the dance floor, and it's all kind of can tie together. Yeah, see how
constructive and deconstructive interference, absolutely, and of course we're talking about things that are frequency specific, which makes them wavelength specific. So sound project is, does the speed of sound change with frequency? And we were using, there's a lot of things you can use like SpectraFu or Smart or, I use Smart. And so here you can see a screenshot. We were using Smart, and you don't have to look that closely. But we could use either the transfer function or impulse response, and basically measure how long a piece of sound takes to get from the time it leaves our reference source to the time it arrives to our measurement mic. And so here you can see him precisely measuring out the measurement mic.
Nice.
Walking with the tape measure, and it turned into quite a fun little family affair here. I've got my daughter sort of helping out, and anyway, we're punching into various frequencies. We had to use square waves, which created enough harmonics that we could have an individually identifiable piece of sound, so the computer could sort of take a picture of when that sound left the interface and when it arrived to the measurement microphone, and then of course calculate the distance or the time rather. Although my son was very impressed that the software told us the distance the microphone was away very accurately. He was like, "Wow, that's really accurate software." I was like, "Yeah, it is. It's
wow."
Anyway, he's learned a lot of this stuff, and I leave for California in a couple of days, and so he has to present this. And I said, listen, son, you have to present the science fair project as though you know this stuff. You can't just say, "Well, my dad's an expert and he told me." I said, that doesn't count. That doesn't count for anything, So it's been kind of fun to watch him dip his toe into my industry a little bit, and
And Dad making him work. That's funny.
Oh man, he knows more about sound. And then we had a long dissertation on microphones, why we used a measurement microphone, and he's probably the only sixth grader who knows about Pascals, But it's about, he's not really a good student either. I'm sorry, I know I'm airing this out publicly. He doesn't like school. I mean, he's a smart kid, but he doesn't like school. And so I think this is good that you can maybe start seeing that, like John, how many times your teachers say, "Oh, well, you're going to need to know this." And you're like, "No, I'm not. I'm never going to need to know this."
Actually, it was, Mr. Young, if you would apply yourself, you could actually do something. It's like, why would I want to do that?
So this I think shows you the application, how you can apply science to a result or whatever it is. And anyway, enough of that. So did we get any answers?
We had a couple of guesses. No, we have a guess that yes, the frequency does matter. And then they went off and are asking more questions that we'll have to deal with. So
we'll get to your questions. The answer is no. The speed of sound does not change with frequency. And imagine for a second if it did, going back to line arrays, if you were 200 feet from a stage. Now, of course, there's things like air loss and attenuation, those kinds of things, but that's a different animal. So imagine if for some, instance that the high frequencies traveled faster or something, which they don't. Again, it's the same. But imagine how out of sync that music would sound by the time it got to you, depending on the distance. Or could you time lightning with thunder anymore? Because thunder is actually a fairly broadband sound. Where would you time it from? Anyway, speed of sound does change based on temperature or humidity, both of which were constants for our experiment. You can see we ran it indoors. And so that was not really a factor. They just sort of affect the elasticity of the medium, which is air in this case, through which sound travels. But for those of you who want to do your own sixth grade science fair project, no, the speed of sound does not change with frequency.
So let's talk temperature, humidity, because this is something that, being that we live up here, there's times where we have a very still, when it was 20 below the other night, I went outside, no wind whatsoever. It was just cold. And it seemed like I could hear vehicles from miles away driving by.
Well, two things. One, we talked about this in other shows where whales can communicate thousands of miles apart through water. Water, is a very, very good transmitter of sound. I don't think that's what you experienced on these really cold sub-zero nights. I think simply the fact is there's very little environmental noise. The world kind of crawls indoors when it's 20 below. And so you just don't have that other ambient noise, that's probably a part of it. Now, obviously the humidity is very low when it's 20 below, and that's going to impact things quite a bit to the negative, actually. So I think it's just a product of the fact that there just wasn't a lot of other things making noises,
Yeah. Okay. We answered that one. Okay, so let's talk about the line array, the hot spot on the dance floor. So we know that the frequencies are all going to be hitting that same spot at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
can a line array, will it be more susceptible to maybe the dead zone in the middle of the dance floor, or as Howie was referring, he wanted to have that hot spot on the dance floor and not have the rest of the room. Can a line array be better for that, or is it worse for that, or is it really, it doesn't matter?
Boy, here it comes. It depends.
I want you guys to notice we made it in almost 20 minutes into the show before.
The first 15 we were talking about snow, so I would say a line array would be better. But here's my reasoning, and we might be able to. I might even punch some holes in my own theory. I'm shooting from the hip here again, but line array boxes typically have a very narrow vertical pattern, and because they're designed to be arrayed, so we have the ability to create more directional energy. It's about steering the energy where we want it. So in this case, I would think that, given the right circumstances for height and arrayability, you could focus, that energy on the dance floor. That's not to say that you couldn't do the same with a point source box. Those again come in a variety of flavors for horn configuration too. Some amusement parks and things use constructive and deconstructive interference and phase cancellation, like noise canceling headphones. They do that to sort of create a change, in areas and attractions too. So there's all kinds of things you could do. Generally speaking, a line array speaker, and if you go back and see our show on line arrays, maybe isn't the right choice for a DJ, unless you're going to use enough of them to use it properly as an array. Now, there are some boxes that are used very, very effectively in a crossover sort of way, like RCF's HDL20A or the HDL10 or the HDL50 now, but the 20A is a good kind of right in the middle meat and potatoes kind of example here, where, it's a box that's designed to be hung in an array, but also works in a cluster of 2 or 3 vertically, doesn't behave like a line array anymore, behaves more like a point source loudspeaker, but could certainly be used with those narrow vertical patterns to sort of directionalize that energy. So that's I took the long and winding Oregon Trail to get to the point that basically, I think I probably would go with the line array first because I could use something like a couple boxes with focused energy, but doesn't necessarily mean it's the best case.
Sure. Okay, our next question. With speakers, top speakers and subs, should a person basically get a matched from the same company type of thing, or can you mix your tops with different subs from a different company?
Well, you said can you, and yes, you can. No kittens die or anything if you mix and match, but there's some advantages to matching them, and that's more and more in the realm of powered loudspeakers where these amplifiers and DSPs are built in, and there's presets where you can say, okay, I've got a this top and I've got a this sub, and bang, your crossover settings are right. If there's any other time alignment, functionality that's needed, that's right. They're kind of designed with each other in mind in terms of frequency response. And again, time alignment of the cabinets, the pole sockets maybe are placed, in a place to the sub to allow for proper alignment of the top with the sub. We're getting kind of nitpicky, but it's generally advantageous, but the world doesn't end if you do it another way. If they're passive loudspeakers and you have the presets, or you can create presets, tune them as it were in your DSP, then, it doesn't necessarily make as much difference. But there again, a series is conceptualized as a series by a manufacturer. And so they kind of sit down and say, well, if we're going to make this 12 and this 15, let's make a 15 sub and an 18 sub to go with it. And all of that's kind of conceptualized together. So the summary of that is it's probably better to match, but it doesn't mean that you can't achieve good sound if you don't.
Touring, the large touring companies, are they basically using exclusively one brand, or sometimes will they have a different sub to the line arrays on top?
Well, when you use a word like sometimes, I have to say yes. But, predominantly it's matched, almost always. And more, For example, I'll pick on Electro Voice because I love them, and that's the rig I own, the X-Line Advanced X2 boxes. You can't mix them. I mean, I suppose you could. You're not going to go to jail or anything if you don't, but EV won't sell you one X2 box. It just doesn't happen. I get people all the time that message me and say, yeah, how much are those X2 boxes? I'm like, well, you have to buy, I think it's 12 or 18 of them, and you have to buy the amplifiers, and you have to buy the DSP, and you have to buy the carts, and you have to buy the subs. They won't sell it not as a system.
Interesting.
Well, because they understand what's going to happen. You take a great box like that, which is winning all kinds of awards. I've been touring with that box now since I bought them and using them with major acts, as you know, and I love the box. But if you don't power it correctly and you don't process it correctly and you paired it up with some other, milquetoast stuff, it doesn't sound good, and it's going to make Electro Voice look bad too. So they're A, ensuring you're going to have the best results, and two, protecting their reputation. And they're not alone by any means. Almost all of your major, we'll say, touring sound companies, touring audio manufacturers, require or strongly suggest that. So you're going out with a complete system.
Interesting.
Not to say that it doesn't happen. Maybe somebody will say, well, I'm going to go with, Leo tops and, some Danley subs. And, again, there's no law, and particularly as rigs get older and get on the road, the opportunity for mix and match gets a little bit greater. But right now, if you wanted to buy an X2, you're buying it all, or you're not getting it. They just won't sell it to you. I mean, you just can't buy an X2 box, so.
Ian, I had a question on speakers. I have a speaker, but it did not have inputs for audio signal, just red and black for the AC line. Is this normal? I'm not exactly sure if he's talking red and black clips on the back, like a wire, and I'm not using the right terminology.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume, based on that limited information, that the red and black is not for AC. First of all, red and black wouldn't be the appropriate color coding for AC. In the U.S., it would be white and black, and in Europe, it would be it'd be blue and brown. But that red and black would be typical of a amplifier output signal. So that would be likely a passive loudspeaker that requires an external amplifier.
And it's most likely more of an install speaker, because I've had some install speakers that were in the DJ realm, and they had those little red and black only.
Or it's, and Ian, I'm not picking on you. I'm just, we're just sort of theorizing here. There are those boxes that are out there that are maybe not, they're maybe below the DJ realm. They're sort of sold as DJ speakers, but most pro audio speakers are going to have a speak-on connection these days. At a minimum, they're going to have a 1/4-inch connection. Spring terminal would be very rare. Install box would almost certainly have a Phoenix connection, which is typically green. So, I'm not picking on you, but red and black clips probably tells me it's not a pro audio loudspeaker either.
Mm-hmm.
But could be wrong.
Yeah, my son just installed some speakers in his bedroom. Red and black clips on them, and that's running it off an amplifier, and he thinks it's the most awesome thing in the world. It's like, good, don't listen to Dad's sound system over there because it sounds much better.
Well, things designed for a purpose, right? So
yeah. Let's see, another question from Thomas. Can sound travel farther with temperature or weather? Which one would have more of an effect? So let's just basically.
Isn't temperature weather?
Yeah. So what effect does temperature have on sound travel?
Okay. It changes it. It's interesting if you look at some DSPs like the Electro Voice. Let me see if I got a widget on here that will show us if we punch in the temperature, we can learn the predictive speed of sound. Let me see if this is in. I didn't even look this deep in this app. Let's see. Calculate.
Oh, here we're going into it, and Ian's just messing with our head. He just made the whole show.
I was kind of curious. I'm like, gosh, let's
go drive through some snow instead now.
All right, let's see. Calculators. Where are my calculators?
See, and I'm not even following the chat. I basically, when there's a question, I sit on the question until we answer it. So, they're down there talking about that. It's a joke and a novelty. Ian's being bad.
I thought I had a calculator that would tell me the speed of sound at a given temperature. Let's see if I can find one for you. Temperature does not have as great of an effect as humidity. I'm looking to see that. I know part of the audio tool suite. I'm sure it had that, but.
So that's why on a humid night, and a thunderstorm can be 50 miles away, and you could hear rumbles from it already.
Sure. Well, one, we're talking about extraordinary sound pressure from thunder. I mean, we're talking about something very loud. Two, your humidity probably is higher on those nights. Three, thunderstorms tend to be stronger on warmer days. So let's think about it this way. As things cool down, they slow down, right? Approaching absolute zero and all that nonsense, right? So basically, as the temperature gets higher, the speed of sound is faster, because everything can vibrate a little faster, whatever. So more humid, faster, warmer, faster. So I've never done these scientific tests. These are just things that I'm told to be true. I guess, you can experience them a little bit in the real world. You can go into like the EVDC1 and you can punch in the temperature and figure out what it will then figure out your delay times more accurately based on the temperature. But maybe part 2 of my science fair project, maybe one I just have to do for my own self, is try to measure sound through hot water versus cold air. I don't know. I mean, science says it would be much faster, but it'd be fun to see those results borne out.
To the pool.
Yes, to the pool. I don't know if I answered the question though, but anyway, short answer: wetter, faster, warmer, faster.
It's all about the water.
Yes.
Okay.
Why whales can communicate thousands of miles apart, because that water is a more solid medium,
So it's like Mother Nature's version of the internet.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, thunder's just extraordinarily loud, and so it travels a lot. And it is what it is, right?
Okay, I think we're caught up on the questions. What have you? Let's spend a couple minutes talking about now.
That's going to drive me nuts. I know I have a calculator on here for that. It's just going to drive me crazy.
No, but leave it alone, because attention deficit will kick in, and then you won't be with us, so you'll be busy looking at your phone for the next half hour, and then all of a sudden a messenger post will pop up, and then you'll be looking at that, and then the email program will light up, and then you'll be looking at your email.
I found it. So. Here we go. Delay time calculator. So you can see there we have a value for temperature. So let's just say, let's keep our distance at 328 feet. Our delay time it's showing as 0.29 seconds. Let's change our temperature to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And you can see that our delay time has, because like I said, faster, warmer, faster. Our speed of sound, our delay has shortened just ever so slightly to 0.28.
Yeah.
Now this doesn't take into account humidity, but anyway, I guess. Oh, and yeah. So anyway, I knew I had one on there. It's driving me crazy.
There we go.
Just don't reference, because here's the deal. For all intents and purposes, you can't do anything about the temperature anyway. And since the speed of sound is constant through all frequencies, it doesn't really make much difference. I mean, for you and for 99% of the things that I do, unless I'm doing a delay tower that's a long ways away, then it doesn't really matter anyway, because throughout the day, the temperature will change. And so I'm time aligning between the systems. I'm not calculating it based on distance, and I'm just literally running a signal and time aligning it. So the fact is, while it's fun to know, it isn't all that necessary to know. You can calculate either using, like I said, transfer function or impulse response, or one of the fun little tricks I use to time align my subs to tops is I'll generate a tone at the crossover point, and I'll just have an RTA running, and then I'll invert my subs, and I'll watch for maximum cancellation, and then I'll put them back into normal polarity, and I'll have maximum summation at that point. I never check the temperature, because the speed of sound is constant at all frequencies.
Yeah.
As the temperature changes throughout the day, my delay time will change together too. So it doesn't really matter. I don't need to know the temperature. So anyway, fun to know, but not all that necessary.
Oh, funny. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, we've talked about this in other shows, subwoofer placement, because we were talking again with that hotspot on the dance floor. If you've got to 2 subs, that sometimes will have the cancellation as those big low frequency wavelengths slap into each other.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to eliminate that from our room, let's say our little room we're going to be playing on is the dance floor is like a 50 by 50 dance floor, and we traditionally would do a stack of speakers, our table stack of speakers kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. If we want to eliminate any chance of having bass cancellation, where would be the best spot to put our subwoofers if we had, let's say, 2 single 18 subwoofers?
In an anechoic chamber. There's just
In case you didn't know that I was describing a room that wasn't there.
Yeah, and one that's anechoic down to like 40 hertz. There's just no way to know. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's a way to know, but there's just no way to say, well, if you put it here, you won't get any room moding at all.
What do you mean by room moding? Tell us what that is.
Thanks, John. Room moding is what you're talking about, where those, because we're not just talking about the interference between the boxes, which that we can fairly well address, but we're also talking about interference with the box on its own. You can take a single subwoofer and place it in the room and probably walk around the room and find dead spots and live spots, power alleys and cancellation, So.
And that's happening because the sound from that subwoofer is radiating.
It's hitting a wall and coming back into the source. And so it's just the same as it's sort of coming from another subwoofer. So optimal placement for 2 subwoofers, it would be right next to each other. You'd have maximum coupling at that point, and it would behave as just one much louder and more efficient subwoofer. But that doesn't absolve us of the issues of room moding. Now, there's all kinds of really cool stuff we can do. We do not have time for it today, ladies and gentlemen. But you can look at things like shaded gradient arrays, where we can stagger the placement of the subs, change the time delay, change the level from the outputs, and we can try to deal with some of that. But believe me, that's pretty 301 stuff. It's not an answer I can give you right now. It's not an answer I could do in my head, to be honest with you. We could create this hypothetical 50 by 50 room, and we could look at, depending on what the Sabine coefficients of those surfaces in the room are, is it sheetrock or is it concrete or whatever, we could figure all that out. But there isn't I get questions. I had a question from a gentleman the other day. He says, what do I turn my knob to for proper gain structure? And I said, there's no answer I can give you. You have to do the process. I can't just say, well, if you do this, you'll have, as you said, no chance of interference. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I wish there was an easy button we could just mash our hand on, and but no, I don't, because then I'd be unemployed. Anyway, I've rambled on enough.
When you were talking about putting the subs together, I noticed you were saying you gestured side by side as opposed to stacked.
Doesn't make any difference.
Doesn't make any difference. Okay. Now you're going to do the hand jive, and again, now we're getting distracted. Okay, Ian has a real question this time.
No, you blew it. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, only because I really like Ian, so
Sub question.
It's the Ian I'm thinking of, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. He's the guy. The Ian that's with us all the time. Do they make line arrays, sub line arrays, and Why not?
Well, yeah. I mean, they don't call them subline arrays, I guess, in that. I mean, in that sense, but maybe they do, I guess. Anyway, you can certainly array subs, and arraying subs is much easier than arraying tops, actually. So many times you will see. Again, we just talked about this, like a shaded gradient array on the ground. That's an array. But if you're asking about flying columns of subs, oh yeah, it's done all the time, all the time. And sometimes you'll see the tops here and the subs, arrayed right behind it. Now, of course, we just time align those tops back to the subs, or we'll see, arrays of subs flown or hung. So yeah, absolutely, it's done all the time.
Thomas's question: what is the process for proper gain structure?
link the other video, please.
Yeah, we talked about that last week with the microphone. That'll get you started, and then when you want the 3-hour answer and the full then you got to go to the audio symposium.
Yeah, I thought we covered it pretty good in one show, if I remember.
Yeah,
correctly.
we've talked about it on a few here.
But if not, come to the audio symposium, because I think that hands-on makes believers. It was just really fun for me to see some people that I know are very smart, but we're just taking their learning to the next level. It was really fun for me to watch the light really go on, to see people take, just yammering that comes out of my face on this show, but then put it into real practical knowledge with real gear and hear a very tangible difference. And we not only did it right, we did it wrong. So you would know what you were hearing when you heard that, and you'd kind of know what to do. And people went, "Wow, what a difference!" Mm-hmm. So, again, to the gentleman who sent the email, thank you for the email. I appreciate it. I hope the answer was helpful. But again, it's just not a magic number; it's a process, and it's going to be unique to your system.
Okay, we've got a couple of different questions.
Well, good.
And I've heard this actually, and I don't know if this is a wives' tale or a whatever, but that if you have with bass, that you can actually make people sick from high levels of bass.
I believe it.
And I think I could see it, because if somebody, the bass and the pressure, and especially if they're having some kind of it, I could see it.
The magic numbers would be, and I probably wouldn't tell you if I did, but I know for a fact that the military and some law enforcement agencies have what they call non-lethal weapons that use sound to debilitate people. I would imagine that's right on the money, that some frequencies could cause real issues for you. And now we're not talking about frequency so much as time again, but a fun thing that I heard is they have basically a riot suppression weapon that takes your voice and then sends it back to you, I don't know, 100 milliseconds or whatever. There's some magic number that somebody has figured out, causes your brain to really freak out. When it hears its own voice, this certain magic number later, it basically makes you shut up. You can't talk anymore. You're like, because every time you do, you hear that sound and your brain just kind of spazzes. So
I think I've worked that venue actually, where there was a long venue and you're at the other end of it and there's enough time delay and you're like, I'm done now.
It's really trippy. And anybody who's experienced it on a phone, maybe again, like 100 milliseconds would almost be typical for a phone reflection. You hear it on a phone, you're like, I hear my own voice. You're like,
yeah. Okay.
Somebody could look that up and find out what it is. I don't know.
Somebody was asking about the audio symposium, if there were any dates or any news on that. I think that,
stay tuned.
Yeah, you'll have to. There's a lot of things that have to happen between now and then.
Yeah, I was just thinking. I mean, I'm in Los Angeles twice, and Vegas and Baton Rouge, all before the second week of February, I think. So,
no, it's.
I'm not really thinking about. I mean, no offense. I want to do another one, and I know Mike wants to do another one, but we gotta get through the next little bit here before we can really think about it. We would love suggestions, though, on when would be good for you. That's the biggest thing, I think, is we want to make sure it's the time that works for your busy working schedules. So let us know. Send feedback, please.
Yeah. Cool. Ben, you need to get yourself settled in and such now that you're in your hotel room. Walking in the door.
Lucky not getting me in my jammies here, you know.
Well,
so
that's why we
I'm
caught you right away.
still wearing the, whatever. But
Good stuff. Thank you guys for watching tonight and hanging out with us this evening. Next week we start the NAMM week, so we'll have to watch schedules and such of when things are going to be happening, because it's going to be a chaotic week, and we'll see how things all come together. It'll be weird and fun. So, Ben, have yourself a wonderful time down in the cities, and we will catch you next time, my friend.
sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everyone.